So in this video, we made it possible for the homeowner to get their own hot tub in their backyard. Now we did this by trenching and installing a pole box with conduit running from the front of the house to a pop-up at the pad, as well as a water spigot that the client wanted for them to be able to wash off their feet. So the first thing we started doing was digging a trench that led from the front of the house to the back of the house. Now, in the way was a concrete pad that we went ahead and took out real quick, and then we went ahead and started hand digging the trench from the fence about 30 feet away and went up to the pad next to the garden bed. Now, the ground was pretty tough. It would have been preferred if we had wetted down the ground initially or added gypsum, or even a trencher would have been nicer, but that's alright. We're still able to get down there. It took a lot longer than it could have if we had the right tools. That's alright, still made it happen. So now we dug down to the inspector's specification about 18 inches below grade, and so to make sure we hit that mark, we aimed for at least 20 inches deep, to make sure that there was going to be no hiccups with the inspector. So you can see we had to go past the side of the garden bed here. It's kind of a narrow workspace. You had to take out part of the curb, go right next to the sprinklers. We only broke one portion of the sprinklers. We were able to fix that pretty easily, but for the most part, nothing was damaged. And anything that was in the way or under the pad, we were able to pick up and move. So now after excavation, we then cut and glued all conduit as well as set in place our pole box for the electrician. We laid 2 pipes along the 30-foot span of the house to allow for future additions to power if the homeowner wanted to or felt they ever wanted to do so. So here's the front portion of the trench that went out to the front of the house over where the power and the breaker box was there. So we went ahead and dug that out, and then you can see we got all our trenching done. So now it's the electrician's turn to come on in, and so now we can get straight to digging the pad out itself. So when excavating for the pad, we had to account for the slight grade change in the yard, so we used a laser level as reference to make sure we would dig out the right amount of material. This depth was determined by a few different factors. Finished grade of the pad needed to be 1 inch above grass, the pad would be 4 inches thick, and base material also needed to be 4 inches deep. And then over here to conclude the infrastructure, we went ahead and backfilled all the trenches. And you can see the homeowner had chickens laying around the property, and so they brought some light to the job site. They were fun to play around with. They would mess with us a lot of the time. That's alright, they didn't really get in the way, they didn't bother us too much. Went ahead, you can see it's all covered up, looks very nice and tidy, and the pad's all cleared out, ready to go. So we went ahead and rented a compactor, and we went ahead and did our first initial compaction, wetted it down the ground lightly, and then we got ready for base material. You see we kind of brought a lot of our excavated dirt over back there at the corner. That's where the homeowner wanted it. He wanted to use some of it for the property. But there's a little bit too much, and so the neighbor out front needed some dirt, so we went ahead and took some of that and had a friend come out, and he wheeled it out to the front. After installing an additional water soffit that the homeowner asked for, we went ahead and added our 2-part AB we began spreading it evenly across the pad. We checked again with the laser level, making sure we were at the right grade for the entire project. Finally, we compacted everything. And then we went on to forming a rebar but with the wire mesh. Before we could pour anything, we needed to get the forms put up. So with 4 2x4s that were about 16 feet in length, we then were able to cut them down to their general length and then screwed them all together, maintaining our distance of 12 feet, and our distance from the garden bed maintained 2 feet. Then we laid down a rebar mesh, overlapping them by 2 squares, and then tying them together, making sure it was 2 inches away from the forms all the way around to prevent cracking anywhere on the pad. If you're enjoying so far, it would be much appreciated if you let us know your feedback down in the comments and hit that like button. See here, we made sure to tie everything together so nothing was going to shift when we went to go pour and walk around it. And then finally, with all parameters taken care of, we were ready for the pour. To do this, we had a half-yard concrete trailer mixer that made 2 trips to the batch plant. We then used wheelbarrows, and we carried them both loads to the backyard. To make sure that the first load wouldn't set up too quickly before the second, we made sure to start bright and early around 6 a.m. We had a few helping hands with us that day, one of them being my father and along with my cousin. We used the straightest 2x4 we had to screed the surface to general grade and then went over everything with a bull float to get everything perfectly flat. Between concrete deliveries, we kept an eye on the first half, making sure it wouldn't set up too soon. When the second batch arrived, we set in place with almost perfect amount with just a few shovels left over. The final bit was finishing the concrete. It happened very quickly because it was midsummer and the temperatures were warming up pretty quickly in the morning. We edged along all the forms and smoothed everything like glass. And then completing everything with a nice broom finish on top and provided a nice texture with grip for a non-slick surface where the hot tub would be. The final cleanup day meant deconstruction of our forms and backfilling all the loose dirt. If you live in the greater Sacramento area, be sure to check out some more of our work and see what you think. At this point of our job was done, and it was now time for the electrician and hot tub installer to come out and do their thing. Keep an eye out on our Instagram page for a post of the final review with an awesome pergola and a spa installed. Again, thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you guys on the next job.